I love the Monogatari series, but trying to explain this series to anyone is extremely difficult and annoying. So I'm going to be explaining the entirety of the Monogatari series, because it can't be that hard, can it? So what exactly is the Monogatari series, you might be asking? In my honest opinion, it's a deep delve on human psychology and the connection between human bonds. But don't take my word for it. Listen to these comments from the internet. Imagine supernatural, but you solve problems with the therapy session. Also, it's weird as fuck. Pervert. Pervert gives free therapy to traumatized girls. Before going on to the series itself, there is something we need to know about. These things called oddities, and there are a lot of them. Oddities are basically supernatural phenomenons from Japanese legends. These oddities are killed by people called oddity slayers, and there can be a lot of different reasons for them forming. Like, maybe that one time I got scammed by a fake e-girl. You know who you are, XO Alicia _carrot _18XO. You. We might have gotten a little sidetracked right there. But let's move on to Kizumonogatari. Chronologically, Kizumonogatari is the start of the Monogatari series. This arc is where Araragi Koyomi finds his life completely changed after he saves a vampire called Kishshot from dying by giving her all his blood. When this happens, you normally die, because people die when they are killed. However, this time, he turns into a vampire and has to get the body parts of Kishshot back from the oddity slayers who almost killed her. And through a series of 3 duels, with the help of Hanekawa and Meme, he gets them back. This is where the arc suddenly has a shift in tone. The arc delves into the first kin of Kishshot and the moral dilemma Araragi faces having saved a vampire. The fact that the vampire who he saved eats humans, but through a bad compromise, he steals her name and turns her into a nameless, almost powerless vampire in a state of nor death nor full life. And that's the end of Kizumonogatari. And we can finally now start the main story. Wait, what? So one of the weird things about Monogatari is that it's actually not supposed to be viewed in a chronological order. But for the sake of my mental sanity, I will keep the video in a chronological order. So with that, let's look at the bakemonogatari series. Bakemonogatari begins as a direct continuation of Kizumonogatari, with the first arc being Hitagi Crab, where Araragi tries to help Senjogahara get her weight back from an oddity. It drives onto the subject of past trauma of Senjogahara Hitagi as a character, from the involvement of her mother in a cult, where she spent all her fortune and incurred debt from the cult. Araragi takes her to Oshino Meme, where Meme tells us that we need to perform an exorcism on a crab god. And before that exorcism, thoroughly questions her and asks her about the scariest moment of her life, when we learn that she was attempted to be violated by a top-ranking member of the cult. And after she reveals it, the crab is summoned and it is visible only to her. She isn't able to speak at all to the crab god at first, but when Oshino steps in, she boldly asks him for a second chance and begs to the god to give her weight back, to give back her memories and the burdens she has on her, and thanks the oddity for taking her weight so far. The crab oddity was not a plague, neither a villain, but it was just a well-wishing god which took all the burden she had on her, as well as her mother's ties. And hearing the prayer of Senjogahara, the crab oddity gives back her weight and disappears, resolving the matter of Senjogahara Hitagi. Now, as per @fascism enjoyer, no comment on that username, Senjogahara is the best waifu ever, and he is completely wrong. On Mother's Day, when Araragi is chilling in a park, he meets Senjogahara in the park and they share a small conversation. And they find a girl looking at a map. And Araragi finds out that her name is Hachikuji Mayoi. And after he talks to her and gets rejected, he starts bothering her over and over again. But we find out that she is a lost snail oddity, which starts the Mayoi snail arc. The Mayoi snail arc is the introduction to the character Hachikuji Mayoi, who is not able to reach the location she needs to go ever. The location in question is the location of her mother's house. But in the middle of the arc, it is revealed to us that Hachikuji cannot be seen by Senjogahara because Hachikuji was struck by a truck on her way to her mother's house 11 years ago, and she became a lost snail oddity after that. But with the help of Meme, they are able to solve the matter of Hachikuji's lost snail oddity, and she passes on as a oddity. What I didn't mention about this arc was that Senjogahara confessed her love to Araragi, and in his response, Araragi accepted her confession. It should have been me. Why him? Wait, what do you mean I'm salty? I'm not salty. The next arc of Monogatari is Suruga Monkey, which is a arc detailing some of Senjogahara's past to Kanbaru Suruga, who was a past track and field runner along with Senjogahara, and developed feelings for her. And after hearing that Senjogahara started to date someone, she used a devil's paw of a contract devil called the Rainy Devil, which grants 3 wishes for the soul of the user and latches itself on more and more as more wishes the user makes. The second wish of her was about Senjogahara and Araragi, which in turn tried to kill Araragi. But Oshino tells us to think, how does a devil who runs on fulfilling contracts not do what its contractor wants it to? And the answer to that is clear. It was about how Kanbaru wanted to deal with the problem in her mind from the first place. She was going through stressful times and she wanted to kill the person who took away her beloved senpai, and it should not be shocking if the punishment for that is even cutting off a whole arm. However, as Araragi is a hopeless idiot, he tries to help her and almost dies in the process, but Senjogahara then enters the room of the showdown, making Suruga's wish go unfulfilled by coming in and thoroughly rejecting her. The paw isn't able to do anything and leaves its owner's arm. Wait, do you guys hear? That's right, it's the next arc, Nadeko Snake, with the most iconic intro of the whole series, and the closest you are right now on getting on a FBI watch list. The whole arc is about a character named Sengoku Nadeko, who was a friend of his 2 sisters, Karen and Tsukihi. Whoa, I don't want to get on a hit list, please stop! However, this scene is actually necessary and is how the main conflict of this arc is shown. Strange strangle marks appear on Nadeko's body, which is the result of a snake oddity in the form of a curse given by someone. Meme gives them a sticker for a curse to be removed, but when the charm starts working, there seems to be 2 and not 1 curse on Nadeko. And when things go sour, Araragi jumps in and helps Nadeko, but Araragi isn't strong enough to defeat the snake, so it goes back to the one who cast it onto Nadeko, ending the Nadeko Snake arc. If this arc seemed like it didn't move anything along, let me assure you that it matters, with the phrase every single Monogatari fan has in their hearts. Forget about it for now. Now, let's look at a character called Hanekawa Tsubasa, who appears as a pure white person who can be only described as a saint. Her current family is her mother's husband's second wife, and her second husband is her current father, and she constantly thinks of herself as a burden to the family as the result of multiple changes, and all that stress catches up to her in the Tsubasa cat arc. Here, we need to turn back time a little. Oi, Dio, do your thing. No, I mean turn back the time. Thanks, Dio. Now, during Golden Week, when Hanekawa first turned into a cat, we got to know that the cat was actually an oddity which relieved stress by draining energy from people, especially the ones who were causing Hanekawa stress. But eventually the problem was solved after Shinobu or Kiss Shot sealed the cat. But now, it's back again due to some unusual stresses of Hanekawa. And before going on about Hanekawa, let me introduce you to what happens every time you meet Hachikuji in this series. FBI, open up! Yeah, we don't talk about the Hachikuji greeting around these parts. Before I get on a hit list though, let's actually talk about the Tsubasa Cat arc of Monogatari. The Tsubasa Cat arc is a dive into Hanekawa, who is bottled up emotionally, who does not even talk about her unrequited love with Araragi, but gives him advice with Senjogahara. The cat oddity reveals to Araragi that Hanekawa loves him dearly, and that in the end it is Araragi's fault here. Flaunting the relation he has with Senjogahara in front of Hanekawa has caused her 3 months worth of stress. But is that completely true, you might ask? And the answer is that it's not. Hanekawa is a coward. She pushes her duties onto oddities to fix because she has to stay a saint, right? And even after the events of this taking place, with Araragi almost dying, and even though she knows, Hanekawa still remains the same. And now we move on to Monogatari. This season is a sort of different experience from what we have had so far with Monogatari. There's a only total of 3 new characters that are introduced, first of which is Kaiki Deishu in the first arc of Monogatari, which is Karen B, following the story of Araragi Karen as she tries to get rid of the evildoer who has been distributing the charm like the one Sengoku Nadeku got affected by. However, the man distributing the charms turns out to be Kaiki Deishu, the man who scammed Senjo Gahara during her weight problem. And when Karen finds out about the man, Karen goes to confront him. But the encounter ends horribly with Karen getting a sting from a fake bee. The arc details on the justice of the character of Karen. Even after getting a little better from the bee sting, Karen immediately tries to get back on Kaiki, which shows her resilience as a character. However, Araragi takes the burden upon himself, and after confronting him with Senjo Gahara, Kaiki agrees to never step foot in the town again. And we go on to the Tsukihi Phoenix arc. Wait, what's going on? Please don't ask me to explain this. I'm thinking of how I should explain this to the FBI. The arc Tsukihi Phoenix, with the lead this time being Araragi Tsukihi, introduces us to 2 more characters, Yotsugi and Kagenui, who are an immortal oddity hunting duo. However, they try to kill his sister Tsukihi, revealing to us that she is not his real sister but an immortal phoenix in her body instead. However, Araragi decides that she is still his sister and defends her. How this arc ends is not important at all. Besides, every single arc, the Tsukihi Phoenix arc does not try to fix up or shoulder the character of Tsukihi. However, just opens her up to us. There is no change in her behavior, and there is no need for a change. And that is enough of a satisfying conclusion for this arc, because in my honest opinion and what the show shows us, Tsukihi is a character who is pretty normal. Hey, future Ashraya here, and I just wanted to inform you that I fucking lost all the grip of Monogatari up to the 2nd season's first arc. So yeah, that was fun. I did my best to try and stay true to the theme, but if that sounded a little weird, cut me some slack here. So yeah, with all that, we finally reached the 2nd season of the series, where the actual plot and conflict resolution begins. Everything so far was almost the backstory. Wait, what? Now, let's start this off with Hanekawa Tsubasa, the most broken character in the entire Monogatari series. A girl that knows everything, is okay with everything, and does everything correctly, yet a girl who does not even have a room in her own house. And in this arc of Tsubasa Tiger, everything she has done so far, every single mistake she has made is pushed in front of her face. This arc also grows the bond between characters like Hanekawa and Senjo Gahara, with a oddity from Hanekawa being born in the form of a tiger that burns any place that provides her with shelter, the lack of any help from anyone, and the cursed cat being free again. Every single problem Hanekawa has faced comes out and brought out her character deep into the open. But just when she thought everything was futile, Araragi comes out to help her, and the character of Hanekawa breaks apart. For the first time in her life, she allows herself to be let free and confesses her love to Araragi, which ends in tragedy. However, with this, she has accepted everything that makes her Hanekawa Tsubasa, and ultimately, finally resolved herself to not be limited within the confines of being the perfect girl. And with this, satisfyingly, we get to conclude the character line of Hanekawa Tsubasa. Kishot, who is now named Shinobu, is a character we know in depth about. She is the only one we have been with for the longest time. However, we still know surprisingly little about her. So as you have guessed by my words, the next arc of Monogatari is Kaibuki Monogatari, where Araragi and Shinobu try to leap back in time one day in order to solve the predicament of not having his summer homework completed. But they accidentally leap 11 years before the current timeline, which is the exact day that Hachikuji got into an accident, and they save Hachikuji from the accident and leave back to the present day. But the present day turns out to be completely destroyed. The motivation of characters behind this arc seems feeble at best, because we get to know that the reason the present day is like this is because Shinobu was not found on the day she was lost. A little confused? Well, me too. So let's rewind this a little back. Perfect. Right when the events of Bakemonogatari were concluding with Black Hanekawa, Shinobu had been lost. Back then, we didn't know the reason why she had left and ran away. But at this point, Shinobu reveals that she planned to destroy the world if Araragi had not found her. This was her way of trying to lash out because she felt unnoticed. Back then, Shinobu had been found due to Hachikuji. But if Hachikuji did not meet Araragi in the first place, then he would never have found her. And if he didn't find her, then he would die in the hands of Black Hanekawa. And Shinobu would regain her powers as Kiss Shot, which would lead to the end of the world. However, when Shinobu and Araragi go out, they find Mayoi Hachikuji, who is an adult right now because they saved her in this timeline. She asks them about their name, and when she hears that it's Araragi, she gives him a letter by Oshinomeme, who explains that the timeline of this world is different from their timeline, and that they can still salvage this world if they are able to confront Kishot. Clearly, Araragi, being the character he is, just cannot leave this world as it is, and the two, Shinobu and Araragi, go on a supposed suicide mission towards Kishot because there's no way they're killing her. But here, when they bring Kishot, we see a complete stark naked character of Kishot. Not literally, but we see Kishot silently sitting down after finding Shinobu so close to Araragi and suggests that they use her as magical energy to leap back in time. What Kishot could not protect as the legendary vampire, she wants to help protect as Oshino Shinobu. Hence, with Kishot passing on in the X timeline and Araragi and Shinobu returning back to the original timeline, we close the doors on Shinobu time arc. This arc really wonderfully shows us the character of Shinobu. And now, Hachikuji Mayoi. Whenever I hear her name, I always get frightened that I might get put into a prison. But nonetheless, she is also a character whose arc we have put an end to, as we know that she didn't really pass on after we literally passed her on as an oddity. I don't know how that makes sense, but this is the final arc of Hachikuji Mayoi, which introduces us not to a new character but a phenomenon called the darkness, which has come for seemingly no reason at all, and there is no way to win against it. So now you might be confused what this is all about, and once again we have to go back in time, this time to the time where Shinobu got her first kin. That was a time when she was revered as a god and where she helped the humans live prosperously, but this went against her instincts as an oddity, and the darkness came up and took away her first kin. Shinobu was able to escape the darkness, but it haunted her forever. So that is the real reason the darkness is here, and what all arrows point to is Hachikuji Mayoi. She is a lost nail oddity but has been reaching all her destinations without getting lost, and even though Araragi searches upon every single alternative, even taking up a favor from Guy and Izuko, in the end there is no way to solve this than to let Hachikuji pass on as an oddity, and hence the Hachikuji we know this whole time is gone forever, bringing her arc and story to a close.
Change my state of mind.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Love so hard to find.
we got him.
Wait, do you guys hear that? Yes, ladies and gents, it's time to again take a look at the Sengoku Nadeko arc, and I fucking hate her! However, the Nadeko Medusa arc starring Sengoku Nadeko is probably the best arc in the entirety of Monogatari. It dives deep into the character of Sengoku Nadeko, not stopping short in any way. On the outside, Nadeko seems like a perfect princess, cute little girl who obeys everything said to her. But when everything that has been going on in her life finally gets to her and she snaps, we can finally see her entire twisted personality. The timid little girl who is now screaming at her classmates and her teacher, and completely disobeying anything told to her. And at one point, she even steals the insignia given to Araragi by Gaen and gobbles it up whole, which releases a snake god oddity to her, turning her into a snake god of the shrine of the polar snake. Even when Araragi tries to go to help her snap out of this, Nadeko almost kills him as he is nowhere as strong as he was during the spring break, stopping only short when Sanjo Gahara cleverly deceives her into letting Araragi and Shinobu live till the end of graduation only, and quite anticlimactically ends the first part of this arc, showing us the deep and broken character of Sengoku Nadeko. The arc is then handed over to our old friend and pal, Kaiki Deishu. The details about this arc is not quite as important as how the arc is. The arc follows a plotline where Kaiki tries to deceive Nadeko, but she isn't deceived by him. And the only possible problem was the fact that Nadeko never trusted him in the first place, showing the big mental issues in Nadeko. But in the end, Kaiki is able to deceive her with the power of Talk no Jutsu, because he has seen that Nadeko hides comics drawn by herself in a closet. Because the only problem with Nadeko was that she was not able to express herself and was just pressured by everyone into being something she was not. And hence, when Kaiki allowed her to feel validated upon her passion, being a witty-minded kid, she was able to leave her position as a god without any regrets. And this provides an amazing ending to the conflict of the character Sengoku Nadeko, a normal girl turned into a god who was able to leave that position behind to finally become an actual person, rather than an identity that people push onto her. And this arc both made me sympathize with Nadeko and turned my hate of Kaiki Deshu into loving his character. No homo, man. Before we go on to owarimonogatari though, I'm just going to ask you a question. Do you like math? Wait, you don't? Oh, I thought we loved math. Surely I'm mistaken and you love math, because the next arc is Ogi Formula, which isn't math, but a continuous story with the Sodachi arc. These introduce us to two new characters, Oshino Ogi and Oikura Sodachi. Oshino Ogi is a character filled with mystery and we don't know anything about Oshino Ogi. However, these arcs mainly focus on Oikura Sodachi and are the most difficult to understand and explain. The arc details us on the past of Araragi Koyomi and opens the character of Araragi further than we know so far. We trace back on the apparent history between Araragi and his childhood friend Oikura Sodachi. And this arc, I personally feel, is the author poking on how human relationships work. The story foolishly shows us how people won't reveal to us what the problems they have is and what they expect of us, but they want us to understand and do what they want us to. And this is basically the story of Oikura Sodachi and Araragi, and her actual story cannot be put in words. In this arc, there is no involvement of oddities, no flashy action, fight, or nail-biting tense scenes, nor does it involve a complex plotline, but just dialogues opening up the history of Koyomi and Sodachi and tearing apart the character of both of them. The relative details of this arc is not important, and I recommend that you go and watch this arc for yourself, even if you have watched it already. When you watch it, you'll understand what I mean, even if you are rewatching it. What is a flashy action fight story is the next arc, Shinobu Male, not M-A-L-E, M-A-I-L, where for the third time in the series, we look back onto the first kin of Shinobu. At this point, even though we don't know the guy, he always feels like a cast of the main story. And in this arc, we finally conclude the story of Shinobu and her first kin. After failing his death and failing to commit suicide, he finally returns into a form again and wants Araragi to stop being with Shinobu and break off his ties with her. But as Araragi has promised to Shinobu that he will be with her forever, even if everyone else is dead, he does not want to lose Shinobu, and they both have to duel, and Araragi wins. Even though Araragi wins, the ending of this arc is with Shinobu bidding her final farewells towards her first kin and apologizing for having someone more important right now. And yeah, that is the end. I didn't mean the end of the whole series. So yeah, Araragi is dead. Guy and Izuko killed him. So I guess the series is over. I'm just kidding. This bit is actually from the Mayoi Hell arc, which is a short conclusion to the slow transformation of Araragi into a vampire. Because as Koyomi kept using vampire powers, he kept on going closer and closer into turning into a full vampire. And after killing him and bringing him back from hell, the matter is now resolved. So he picked up Hachikuji Mayoi back from hell, so that means she has not passed on as an oddity yet again. But this does bring a nice close to the Hachikuji and Araragi arc. So yeah, also I'm going to skip the Senjo Gahara dating arc for no particular reason. Now, for one of the most amazing character endings that Monogatari has, Oshino Ogi. Ogi is a character shrouded in mystery. Where did Ogi come from? Is he evil? Is he someone good? And with the arc Ogi Dark, I'm happy to present to you the final arc of the story of Monogatari, which reveals the character of Oshino Ogi and presents to us a dilemma between two tempting offers. when Oshino Ogi's true identity seems to be the other half of Koyomi Araragi, an oddity created by Koyomi Araragi himself and not Oshino Meme's cousin. When this is revealed to Ogi by Araragi, this breaks the rules of being an oddity, and Ogi is about to be killed by the black orb. So Koyomi tries to save him, but it seems as if this is going to be how they both die. This is when Oshino Meme comes right on time and confirms the identity of Ogi as his cousin, sending the black orb away and saving the both of them. Zoku Owarimonogatari. This is the end of Monogatari, the final arc which brings the entire cast together in order to close upon all of the left behind problems. Zoku Owarimonogatari is probably one of the most twisted looks at the entirety of the Monogatari series, where the reflected or the other side of the characters is revealed. The adultness of Hachiko Jimayoi, who has been stuck in the body of a child for the past 11 years. The actual character of Sengoku Nadeko and Yotsugi, the sealed away Black Hanegawa. And the actual nature of Oikura Sodachi behind her persona. The left behind bits of the characters are put onto the spotlight. And with Araragi finally accepting to move away from the past he had onto the future he will have, this brings Monogatari to an end, leaving us with nothing but a sweet, bitter taste on our tongues. People may say bad things about the show without even watching it, and may even complain about how stupid it all is, but in the end, who the fuck even cares if you enjoyed the show? And after all of Monogatari, I can say I do not regret watching this whatsoever. My dad might have left to get the milk, my mom might have put me off for adoption, but hey, at least I enjoyed the show. Wait,